Everyone, and welcome back to today's episode. I always say that, and I don't know if that's the best introduction, but I'm keeping it until I find something better to say. Anyway, I didn't get to recording an episode with someone else this week, so you're stuck with me, part 2. But I feel like the episode on Monday wasn't really an episode, so I don't feel that bad. In the spirit of the new year, I decided to finally record an episode on this topic or concept or theory that I really love, and something that is kind of my philosophy, kind of how I live life. And this is the title of the video, or the title of the episode, Your Time Machine is Now. I said that weird. What I meant to say is, your time machine is now. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but your time machine is now. It's now. And maybe originally upon hearing that, you're thinking, what does that even mean? And you know what? That's fair. So I'm going to kind of describe it to you and explain what I think it means, and maybe you can kind of apply it to your own life and what you think it means in your own life. So to be truthful with you, I've had this idea for several years now, and I feel like it makes sense. And so it's something that has helped me kind of live life and make sure I'm living life to the fullest. So basically the idea or the concept of this is that in the future, if you look back at the past, there may be things or times when you wish you had a time machine to go back and change your decision or change an outcome or something like that of some sort. And I like to imagine that the time machine is now. So, for example, if you're thinking and you're sitting there right now in this moment listening to this episode, and you look back at your past, I'm sure you can think of a few things that you wish you could change, or different decisions you could make, or, I don't know, going to McDonald's rather than Wendy's because you got food poisoning at Wendy's. I don't know, I'm just making that up. I don't know, sorry. Anyway, I'll leave that in there, whatever. I say stupid things sometimes, but you know what? That's just me being real. So, anyway, basically, I'm sure you can think of times in your past that you wish you could change, that you wish you had a time machine to go back and to fix those mistakes, or to make a decision that you wish you made but you didn't, maybe to do something that you regret never doing, or maybe to stop yourself from doing something that you did do that you regret doing. That can all be really confusing and conflicting in your head, and that's fair. But basically what I'm trying to say is that time machines don't exist, right? And honestly, time is such a weird, interesting concept, just the way it passes. Sometimes it passes slower than others, and sometimes it flies by, and sometimes it, literally inches by second. And it's interesting that time always stays the same. Even if it goes faster or slower, it's always the same. It's always 60 seconds. There's always 60 minutes in an hour. There's always 24 hours in a day, and so on and so on. And so it's interesting that for us, time can be perceived differently. And because time machines don't exist, and because they're not necessarily real, thank goodness, honestly. Have you seen movies where time machines exist? It just is a whole disaster and everything changes and it's just a mess. So I'm really grateful time machines don't exist. But anyway, time machines don't exist. And so how I like to look at it is that the present moment is our time machine. That in the future, there will be moments and times where you will look back and wish that you made a different decision, or that you maybe went back to school when you were trying to decide whether or not you wanted to, or maybe that you put yourself out there to make more friends, or maybe that you push yourself to go for that job that you don't know if you can get, or, and so on and so on. I'm sure you can think of things. And so how I like to live life is to know that right now is the day that I could come back to in the future. And because a time machine is not ever going to exist, because that's just not how that necessarily works, that means that today is the day that I can change and make certain decisions to help future me out. Kind of something that I have implemented in my own life is this idea of future me and my future self. And so sometimes I think about my future self and how I can help her out. and how I can make her life easier. And sometimes that makes present me a little bit more stressed and overwhelmed, but I try to weigh the pros and cons of making a decision to help future me out. For example, when I was living with my cousin, a few times she would see me doing homework and she would ask, "Are you helping future or present you out?" And most times the answer was future me, because I was doing an assignment that wasn't due yet, or doing an assignment that wasn't due for a week or something, or getting started on an assignment that wasn't due. And in starting now, future me will be grateful because I will have already gotten it done, or I would have already gotten a good start on things. So for those procrastinators out there, your time machine is now. Today is the day that you wish you could go back on and study a little bit more, or start that paper that you're going to wait till the very last day to start. Or there's so many things. I don't even know how to name them all, but that's something that I love to do, is to think about helping future me out, helping future Kyra out. Sometimes I'm helping future or present me out, and I'm like, you know what, I just can't deal with all the things in the future, so I'm just going to focus on what needs to be done today. And that's fair, and that's totally safe. That's a good idea. I totally understand that. I do that all the time, but I also try to help my future self out as much as I possibly can. And so another thing that I like to think about is, what would future you thank you for? For example, there's a few things that I'm grateful for. I am thankful to past me for doing dual enrollment in high school so that I already had college credit coming into college. I'm also grateful for past me working really hard to get good grades so that I can be in a position to succeed in college and in my graduate school application, so that I can have a good GPA. I'm grateful for the habits that I've built, grateful to past me for building good habits so that I'm not procrastinating, so I'm getting homework done, and so on and so on. And so there's a lot of things that I can look back on and thank past me, past Kyra, for doing that make present life easier and will make my future life easier. Something that I wrote down for notes in this episode, I have 3 notes, that's all I have, is in the future, you might wish you could go back, but it's too late. Today is the day you might wish you could go back to, so make the most of it. Today is your time machine. Your time machine is now. Another thing that I kind of want to add to this topic to kind of slow things down maybe a little bit, because I feel like I'm talking really fast and I'm talking about kind of harder things to understand and to grasp, so I'm going to kind of slow down. But one of the things that I also like to think of is this concept of why not, and about how the concept of why not can make life so much better. And this isn't YOLO, this isn't you only live once, this isn't whatever. This is why not, as in why not go back to school? Why not? Why not put sprinkles on your pancakes? Why not? Why not go out to lunch with a friend? Why not? Why not do that really scary thing that you've been wanting to do forever but have been so scared to do? Why not? And this is another thing that I like to live by when it's, suitable, of course, because it's a way to help you live life to the fullest. And to be honest, I also implement JOMO into my life, the joy of missing out. And so it's like, yes, there's 2 different sides and I live by lots of different things, but I just think for several little things that just don't necessarily matter, why not make your life just a little bit better, day by day, choice by choice, moment by moment? Because yes, future you is important, but present you is important too. And I like to do things that will help both present me and future me out. And I think there's lots of things that you can do in order to do that. For example, going back to school if you've been thinking about it, or starting a job if you've been thinking about it, will help present you learn and grow and become a better independent thinker. And it will help future you be more competitive in the career field, or more competitive in getting a job, more confident in who you are, more educated, more prepared and considerate, and have good habits and all of the things. And so that's something that also is important to me, is to imagine what I can do for my future self and what I can bless my future self with. And I just keep going back to this. What would future you thank you for? What can you do today? I had a friend once I'm still very good friends with her. And she was, at the time, just getting paid by the studio to do her high fitness class. And I kept encouraging her to start her own class and to rent a space because she could make way more money if she did so. But it was so nerve-wracking and so risky because it wouldn't be a guaranteed paycheck. It wouldn't be her guaranteed, this is how much you get paid every single time. Instead, it would be dependent on who showed up. And it depended on if people showed up at all. But I told her, I was like, listen, people love you. People show up. People care about you. People are invested. You have done that. You have made a connection. You've made a community. It's time to push you out of the nest so that you can fly. It's time. And so I finally got her to agree, and she ended up renting the space out and collecting the money for herself rather than the company collecting it and paying her. And now she is doing so well and is really thriving. And it just took that one decision, that one risky decision, the one moment of jumping out of the nest to fly in order for her to be at where she's at right now. And honestly, it was a big blessing because she's decided to do so prior to COVID. And so she kind of already had the schematics built and the structure of how it worked with COVID so that she was able to still do it. And then she just ended up doing some on Zoom. So anyway, I just have a really strong testimony and belief of starting and doing the risky thing today so that tomorrow your future self is grateful. And yes, it might be a little bit stressful, and yes, it might be a little bit overwhelming, but if you don't make that decision, when are you going to? I just feel like there's different benefits for making a decision sooner rather than later. Here's another example. My professor today talked about how his graduate school journey, and when he graduated with his bachelor's, he had no idea what he was going to do with his life. And so he was like, I didn't even, buff up my resume or anything. I just had no idea what I wanted to do. And then he ended up, spending 3 years just kind of doing whatever, and then decided I'm going to go to grad school, spent 2 years preparing to get into grad school, and then got into grad school. And so there were 5 years of his life where he, wasn't doing anything. I mean, I guess 2 years of his life he was preparing, but had he known where he was going to go, or at least had somewhat of a plan to go for it, then there would have been so much less time wasted. And I mean, I say this just in my own personal opinion. That doesn't mean that maybe for him that time doesn't seem wasted for him. Maybe he enjoyed those years. And maybe sometimes you have absolutely no idea what you want. And so you need to take those years to kind of figure out what you want and figure out who you are. And that's fair. That's important too, because in order to help future you out, you got to know who you are. But I just want to add that if you do know what you want, but you're scared to go for it, today is the day. Right now is the time. Do it. Go for it. Because future you is going to thank yourself if you've started today rather than 2 years from now, because then you'll be 2 years behind what you could have been. Now I just want to make a little quick disclaimer that if you're sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, this is so much, I'm so stressed, I'm so overwhelmed, I can barely deal with my life, how the heck am I supposed to help future me out? Take a deep breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. I just wanted to share this idea and this concept of helping future you out, because it's something that has changed my life, but also something you can implement slowly and gradually into your life. You don't have to change the world. You don't have to be a completely different person. You don't have to do all of the things you've been procrastinating. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that if there is something on your mind or something that you've been thinking about doing but haven't done, go for it. Why not? Yes, it may be risky. Yes, it may be scary. Yes, it may be something that is unsure and in the wind and unknown, but you'll never know if you don't try. And you'll never know if you don't put that step forward and reach out. So anyway, I feel like I talked really fast, really deeply, really sporadically, all at you. But my main message is that your time machine is now. Your time machine is today. And today is the day that you can make a decision that will help future you out exponentially. And honestly, it can be little decisions too, like going to bed on time and waking up on time. By the way, I don't do that. I really never have. I'm terrible at that. Or, I don't know, brushing your teeth so that future you has a beautiful smile. Or, going to the gym and, continuing that effort. By the way, I'm also terrible at going to the gym. I'm just trying to think of examples. Something that I am extremely grateful for is I am a journaler. And journaling has been a constant and consistent thank you to my past self. Every day I am grateful for the time I took journaling and the time I took in writing my thoughts down and writing my testimony down. I'm grateful for the time that I have taken to reach out and to connect with others. Something someone said today in my institute class is actually my instructor. He said, "You will never regret taking the time to connect with someone." And I mean, I feel like absolutes are scary, so saying never is kind of intense, but I love the idea and the concept of that taking time to connect with someone is important. And it's thinking celestial, it's thinking in the grand scheme of things, because we realistically will be around people and have relationships our entire lives, our entire existence. And so I love taking the time to invest in people and invest in relationships. And that's one of the reasons I love quality time so much. I hope all of this just gets your mind thinking and going and thinking about what you can do today to help future you out. And maybe something you can do today will help tomorrow you out. Maybe something today will help you 5 years from now. Maybe something today will help you 10 years from now. I don't know. But I just have a strong testimony that Heavenly Father wants us to grow and to become the best people that we can possibly be, and making decisions in the moment to help future us, future you out, will benefit you profoundly. And I seriously know that's true and have seen it so many times in my life. I just am grateful for the times Heavenly Father has guided me to do something that I wasn't sure why I was doing it, because present me is looking back and thinking, I'm so grateful I had that experience, or I made that choice so that I could relate to someone in this way. And that's just something that I constantly live in. And what a great way to live in the state of gratitude and to live in this state of thankfulness. Thankfulness at yourself and at Heavenly Father for helping you and at decisions you've made and so on. I would also like to state that maybe where you are in your life is a place where you haven't been thinking about future you. Maybe you're sitting here thinking, shoot, I've really wasted this past few years. I've really wasted this time, or I wish I had done this and this and this and this and this. And I can understand how that would be overwhelming and stressful. But once again, take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and think about helping your future self out today. Today is your time machine. I'm not saying you can go back to the past, because you can't. But what you can do is make a decision today to affect your future. And if something that you're struggling with is an addiction or a certain habit that you are not fond of, today is the day to change that. Today is the day to get on that journey. And you don't have to change the world, like I said. Step by step is key. I know that when we show Heavenly Father we care, that we want to grow, that we want to become a better person, He'll help us and He'll magnify our efforts. And I know that we can do all things through Christ. I also know you can do all things through Christ, Philippians 4:13. And when we trust in the Lord with all our hearts, He'll lead us and guide us and direct us. And that is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. I just know that everything's going to be okay. Promise. I don't know your particular situation, so you're like, how can it be okay? But I also know that Heavenly Father is a God of happy endings, and He wants us to live our happily ever after lives. And sometimes that means things are going to be hard, but it also means that future us, future you will thank past you for the persistence in which you went through an experience. So I promise that things will be okay. I promise that future you will thank present you for any decision you make to help them out. And I promise that it's doable, that making decisions to help future you out is very doable, and that it's possible. So with all of that being said, embrace imperfection, find meaning, satisfaction, and joy from the journey, because why not find joy? I'm Kyra, and this is Imperfectly Broken, the podcast.